Welcome once again. My name is Richard Joseph, the lead at Digital Times Africa. We deeply apologize for all the challenges we're having. Like I mentioned earlier, today we have to bring you the show from a very distinct position because we are trying to do what we love to do best, cover the entire digital ecosystem on Africa and talk about inciting innovative stories, right? So we are currently at an event covering exciting insights around the business of entrepreneurship. Right before we commence, I'd like to introduce Mr. Nene Kujo, who is the CEO of Sia Africa, for which is a partner bringing you this live show today, this edition of Digital Factory, where we get to talk about city planning and the position of tech investment enhancing better city planning, better waste management solutions. Just to mention a few. Hi, Nene. Good morning, good afternoon. I think it's afternoon where you are. I think we are still having a few challenges with Nene's audio and video here. Not to waste any of our time, I'm just going to set the ball rolling and invite our guests to dialogue and get into the conversation around city planning. Right. As many of you know, over the years, investment in tech has seen the African region done magnificently well, especially in the area of financial inclusion and the likes, digitalization and all of those, right? But then again, one of Africa's biggest challenges has been sanitation, waste management, and access to potable water, right? I have a few images to show you just so we get a general overview around what this situation looked like in Africa, right? Africa, as we know, suffer from a lot of issues regarding city planning. This is a drainage issue and the bad deficit of waste, right? Where this location is, I can tell. These are people trying to get water for just their family needs and their particular needs in a certain region within Africa. This is an African central city. See how cluttered it is, right? People trying to get from point A to point B. The city planning, the living conditions are not a lot to talk about, right? It's not so comfortable talking about these things, and it directly and indirectly impact our health conditions, our living conditions, how people go about either even their businesses. Poor sanitation is linked to transmission of diseases as well, such as cholera, diarrhea, dysentery, just to mention a few, right? In West Africa alone, water quality and sanitation receive little or no attention. Like everyone is busy around other areas, but then these are the things that are the basic necessity for living. Right. Today, I have with me exponential, vast, knowledgeable guest to delve into this conversation around city planning and trying to understand what could be the missed opportunities in waste management. How could we better the African region? What are potential things we could put in place to help Africa city planning see potential growth, right? Which would inadvertently lead to a better economy, right, and living conditions for people. First on the list, I want to introduce Ayo Cuthbert. Onikute. I hope I don't mess the name up, right? Welcome, Hayo. How are you?
Hi, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you loud and clear. I think Nene is on the call now. Let's see if we can get a quick talk from Nene. Just tell us about SIA Africa and its programs before we set the ball rolling. Hi, Nene. Welcome. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Thank you, Nene. Tell us about SIA Africa. Why this initiative? Why the city planning review?
Well, first of all, thank you, Richard, and Digital Times for allowing SIA Africa to be part of this solution-driven episode 2 of all things SIA Africa, the city planning review. I also want to thank your audience who are joining us from around the world. Finally, let me thank the distinguished guests who are, on the show today. I believe Ayo is on. I don't know about Dr. Yosin and Norbert. But as an organization, that thrives on partnership, um, these issues are very important to us because we really believe that we want to advocate for innovative education that hinges on environmentally sustainable, well-planned city towns, and how it all ties into significant economic impact. So after really thinking about these issues, I couldn't have anybody else discuss this than Ayu, a friend of mine who has dedicated his time and his life to doing stuff that have to deal with innovative waste management solutions. So once again, SI Africa is committed to matching resources with opportunities, and we find this forum and this platform very important in a way for us to be able to match resources like IO's knowledge to some of the opportunities that lie within innovative and sustainable waste management.
Thank you so much, Nene, for bringing us up to speed around the SIA Africa initiative and talking about all things SIA Africa, City Planning Review. Yes, we have on the call Ayo, and right about now I'm going to set the ball rolling for the conversation. And Ayo, could you kindly tell us about yourself? I know you are co-founder or the CEO of Dalo. Is it Dial O or Dalo Systems? Right. Let's know about Dalo more.
Okay, so the name is Cuthbert Ayodeji Anikite. I'm Nigerian and Grenadian. My company name is Dalo Systems, and Dalo Systems is actually my second company. My first company was a waste management company focused in Kankan, Guinea. Kankan, Guinea is a city of about 250,000 inhabitants, so about 30 to 40,000 households. Um, I have a master's in urban planning from Columbia University. I've always had a strong interest in urban issues in Africa because I think, especially in West Africa, where you have the density of cities like Lagos and Conakry and Accra and Dakar, you have there's a lot of activity happening. We see that in fintech and health tech. There's a lot of activity happening. There's a lot of mobility startups. There's a lot of people making lives today in these African cities. And there's a lot of technological innovations trying to improve that life, the lives of these inhabitants, of these residents of these cities. And I think one of the things that we're missing, that a lot of people are missing, is the potential in waste, right? And I think Africa's waste profile is interesting in that it is over 50% organic. The plastics are 20% or so. The aluminums and metals are another 15% or so. So there's a lot of actual potential to use Africa's waste differently, right? So that you can build, so that we avoid the model of Western countries where you had massive amounts of landfills and then you've developed over time better approaches to managing waste. African cities, if they could find the capacity and the financial support to bring innovation like anaerobic digestion that takes organic waste and provides energy and fertilizer, you have the potential to really do something interesting with waste in Africa, in West Africa specifically, but Africa generally. And that's my focus. So that's a little bit about me.
All right, thank you so much, Ayo. That's quite insightful. I like the fact that you already spoke about people missing the potential in waste. Um, Before we head on, we're expecting to be joined by Professor Gregory E. Yeltsin, and then we have on board here Norbert Jiwanu, who is the co-founder of Startup Accra. Let's quickly hear from Norbert and let him tell us about his work around city planning, because I know he's working on something of that nature. Right. Hi, Norbert. Can you hear me? Okay. Norbert, can you hear me? Quite unfortunate, the issues we have to deal with technology. So, Ayo, The floor is all yours. I'm going to begin with you, and subsequently, Nene can chip in and also speak about the issue on ground, right? Let's commence with this question. Existing city planning structures ideal for our African ecosystem? And what do you think?
Are existing city structures ideal for Africa's ecosystem?
Yeah.
No, but the innovation doesn't need a city to look a certain way, right? So
Mm,
people will adapt and function within it. If you look at Nigeria, Nigeria now, just kind of across the continent, where we're seeing the innovations on mobility, because one, roads are bad, but two, the state hasn't provided good public transportation options. You have several startups right now that are focused on getting people across countries, within a country, or even cross borders easily. You have Max and Gokada in Nigeria, in Lagos, that are helping people get around the cities easily. And you have the innovations in Senegal with, I forget the name of their transit system, but there is that. And additionally, when we talk, I think there's a lot of focus on tech and startups and the innovations that this is bringing. One of the things I think it disregards is that there are lots of men and women existing in these cities currently that have created systems that work for these cities, without the introduction of technology, right? Because that wasn't an option to them. So they've always been transportation options. There's always been people have found solutions to problems, in spite of the existing layout and the existing landscape of cities, or rather, because of the landscape of cities, they found ways to provide services and make money and create economic impact. Right? Um, Gokada and Max Go in Nigeria weren't the first to do motorcycles, taxis in Lagos, right? These things have existed as long as they've been motorcycles around. So to answer your question, no, I don't think it is the existing structure of African cities is ideal, but that doesn't eliminate the potential, for individuals to be innovative and to start businesses and to find solutions. I cannot hear you.
My mic was muted. Thank you so much, Ayo, for shining a light on that. Yes, I see the structures are currently not ideal, and you likely spoke about the likes of Gokada and the rest, and how they are helping with innovation, right, to help people within city centers like Lagos. I don't know if Gokada is in Dhaka and the rest of the African region really work and go about their business on a daily basis. But then again, I just wanted to bring this to our audience, right? We are streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. If you have questions, kindly leave them in the comment section below. Our guests will do their possible best to answer them. I'm going to share them with the guests and they're going to answer them, right? Norbert is on the call, but I think he has an issue with his video. So I'm just going to bring Norbert in shortly to tell us about his work. I mean, talk to us about the ecosystem here in Accra and how city planning is. Is it an ideal state? What are we doing to change that? Norbert, can you hear me? Okay, unfortunately not. We can hear Norbert, right? I'm going to move on. So we are speaking about investment in tech and seeing what potential investment in tech could actually bring into the waste management solutions or contribute to waste management and city planning, sanitational issues, right? Ayo, in your earlier remark, you mentioned that people actually miss the potential in waste, right? Could we kindly delve deeper into exactly what potential do exist within the waste management sector? I mean, also given that your first startup was in waste management.
Um, Great question. So, in most cities, especially in secondary cities, there is little to no structure around waste management. And so, what that opens is an amazing opportunity for literally dozens or hundreds of people to run waste collection companies. And a waste collection company, like in any city in the world, it's a truck, a few guys that go out, and then a few men and women that go out to collect waste, and a team to collect payments. And these businesses are perpetually underfunded. They usually obtain, decent revenues, right? So on a monthly basis, if they are doing 1,000 customers, generally they're getting about 80% on-time customer payment rate, and they're bringing in between $4 and $5 a month, right? So this is definitely a type of business that is bottom of the pyramid focused, and they're doing mass, right? So they're doing households, 500 households, 1,000 households, 5,000 households. And oftentimes the problems that they need solved are structural, right? So like they need access to better trucks and equipment. Those things are high capital cost. And if they can get financing early to buy quality equipment, they will be able to amortize that cost over a longer time. But if you buy low quality trucks, you're stuck with high costs of repair recurringly. Another problem that's oftentimes faced, and this problem solidly sits in, it should be the state run, but if it's not the state, the private sector could do it, waste transfer stations, right? So like if you're doing as your operational cost, right? If you have one truck and you have 1,000 customers, your constraints are how often can you get that truck empty, right? And how often can you get it back in the field? Because it's only making money once it's collecting household from customers. And the cost of building a waste processing facility or a waste transfer facility in West Africa isn't very high compared to most other investments. But it's a sunk cost. You build it once, you maintain it. But finding financing for that kind of action is very, very difficult for startups for waste enterprises to do. And so they oftentimes face the struggle of where do you dispose of the waste you collect, right? But there are businesses in West Africa. My business in Guinea was doing this, businesses in Nigeria, businesses across West Africa that are serving several hundred customers a day, and that can do more, right? And so they're doing several thousand a month, and they can do more, but they need small investment. When I say small investment, I mean 5,000, 10,000, right? And then this business is able to, with those kind of small capital investments, it can get them past that initial level. Then they're able to bring in, if they're able to do 5,000 households in a month, that you're looking at several $1,000s in revenue, and a business that is sustainable. And the problem is finding funding for them, right? I know, and I see in Africa there's a strong focus in agriculture because you have to feed people. But I think it's a missed opportunity when we are looking at how else can we help that stream, right? Because if you bring food into the supply chain or the value chain of life, that food has to leave somewhere as waste, and there has to be a method of managing that. And there's just not a lot of support for those entrepreneurs. And even, as a startup myself that tried to do waste collection and was working, but had to pivot to tech to bring in a component to support businesses with their customer payment, with their customer acquisition, with their customer tracking. It's a challenging market, primarily because waste has been even in the West, waste is a very unsexy space, even though you have billion-dollar businesses operating in the waste space.
Quite interesting to note that a lot of people, right, from our spaces do not even really think that there are quite opportunities in waste, right? They could make money from it. I mean, I sit here in Ghana currently, and I can tell that there are only majorly two organizations who play in the waste management field: Zoom Lion and I think Alliance, right?
Yeah, but Ghana is an abnormality.
You said what?
Ghana is an abnormality. Zoomline is in most of Ghana. It's an abnormality. Most countries don't have one company. I can't think of any other country in West Africa that has a Zoomline size company. And Alliance, right? And Alliance is nothing on the scale of Zoomline.
Obviously, yes, they're not on the scale of Zoom Lion. But then again, it's good that you mentioned that quite vast opportunities within the industry, right? And people need just little capital, small capital to be able to scale and build like a global front that makes a case for waste management in the region, right? Let me quickly get your reaction about that, Nene. Leading SIA Africa and some of the initiative you hope to accomplish, right? What are your thoughts on this, and how can we get these businesses to really learn and understand the opportunities in the waste management industry? Nene, you are mute. Yeah, perfect.
Sorry.
I can hear you now. Go
Okay.
ahead.
So from where we sit, that is why we appreciate what IO and his Dallas are doing. The idea here is that if we can go out and find funding sources to help a company like what has set up, then we finished our mission. So the objective is for us to get there, add for a company like systems, show what they can, and what somebody like IO is doing. Maybe I'll just pivot back and ask him. So from where you sit today, what are some of the challenges that you faced in trying to get the right financing and funding to support you doing?
That's a good question. So there are a couple of different ways, right? So one, you have waste collection, solid waste. You have organic. You have plastic waste collection, and then there's other waste. The challenge for me has been when I was running my first company, Digitalizing, we were doing several hundred customers in a city. We had about 80-90%, let's say 75 to 80% customer payment rate. So we were bringing in just shy of 2000, 2005, around 2005 a month. And that's small numbers, right? But in terms of having demonstrated a viable business model, it seems clear. The challenge, though, is there are so many moving parts in waste in Africa that it's hard to make an investor feel comfortable with taking on the risk. One, my first company, Digitalizing, focused on secondary cities intentionally. Capital cities tend to have a lot more players involved in the waste than in secondary cities. So I personally believe that if anyone's looking to do waste, their best bet is to start in secondary cities rather than capital. But then what you end up with in secondary, tertiary cities is that you're so far removed from the space that it's hard for people to see you and find you and hear about you. The challenges we face as a company's raising is just finding investors that understand the space we're playing in, understand the play we are making, which is we help build a digital system through which a waste company can manage operations, right? So we're a B2B SaaS play. Now as Dallas Systems, as Digitalizing, we are a waste management operation. But as Dallas Systems, we are a B2B SaaS play. And getting individuals to believe in the mission and the vision of we can get the over 3 million households in Africa reliable waste collection service. But once you've done that, once you've acquired that, once you have them and you have that a business supporting them, you have the potential to do other things, right? It's easier to deliver utility services, or to at least to overlap utility service delivery or monitoring of utility services. And then other things can be added onto that system. So the challenge has been educating investors on how Dallas Systems makes money, but also how we can serve across countries, right? Like a waste operator in Nigeria may operate slightly differently than a waste operator in Guinea, but their structure is more or less the same. And so, we are building a model that we can spin up an environment and deploy to everyone. across Africa. So the problem for us, to answer your question more directly, is just finding investors that are aware, finding investors that are open to being educated around the challenges of the space and the problems that we're solving, and then getting them to believe that we have the team to do it, and we're building a product that can do it.
Thank you so much, Godbert. Super insightful conversations I'm listening to here. We have Norbert on the call now. I'm just going to introduce Norbert shortly. Let's hear from him regarding his work around city planning and proper sanitation building structures. Hi, Norbert. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Perfect. Loud and clear. I can hear you.
All right, sure. So sorry for the earlier technical
That's fine.
hitches.
Yeah. And what you're trying to do with Accra around urban city planning.
All right, sure. So once again, thank you for having me here. Yes. So we established one of the core objective of why we established was to foster collaborations between startups. But I mean, going along, we realized that, I mean, growing as an ecosystem partner, we need to also position ourselves as to contribute to solving society's key issue. And also urban innovation or urban issues are things that, I mean, we've had personal experiences from, and I mean, we deemed it as an opportunity for us to, I mean, identify the various innovators across the country that can find solutions to some of these key urban issues. So, I mean, it's like everything in Ghana is heading towards certain sectors, but we are not paying attention to innovations that would solve some of the key issues that affect us daily. So like waste management, like housing, like urban crime, like urban health. We pay less attention to this than paying attention to other sectors that don't directly have influence on our sustainability as human beings and also as an environment as a whole. So, I mean, this gave us that drive to position ourselves as an urban innovation driver, where we identify the various local stakeholders within the urban innovation space in Ghana, and work with these stakeholders to come up with innovations that solves Accra's teeming urban issues. We want this to be more impactful, so that, I mean, people can move around the cities very freely because it's clean, because there are fewer fumes. People can also, people's life and health are very protected. And I mean, there's structure and order within the urban space that we do find ourselves. So I mean, we in doing this, we try to drive conversations. I think we started with the Accra Urban Talk series, and we are working to start an urban innovation hackathon challenge. I think is somewhere in later January or early February. So planning is still ongoing for that. So one of the key things that we are looking to is to harmonize local innovations and see how best we can bring them together, support them, and connect them to industry so that they can find solutions to some of these key urban problems that we find ourselves in. Yeah.
All right, great, Norbert. Right, I'm still going to put you on the spot right here. What are some of the challenges in digitalizing the waste sector? Right, I mean, you sit in the heart of Accra, and you know the Agbogloshi market, where we have the biggest e-waste dump site. Right, that generally affects the health condition of people living within Accra, and also contributes to a lot of issues around health for the local stakeholders who live in those slumpy areas, right? So what are the challenges in the waste sector, and are there really opportunities in waste management?
Yeah, thank you once again for your question. I mean, in innovation, okay, I always tell people that, I mean, apps cannot always solve a problem. I mean, sometimes sometimes the problem has to do with the people, it has to do with society, it has to do with culture rather than the technology. Are you getting it? So if you create an app, you wonder why. I mean, people are creating so many waste management platforms and apps just to help people collect and manage waste, but they are not able to utilize these platforms to their full capacity, because there's a social problem, there's a people problem, and that's what we fail to actually tackle. And the opportunities that do exist in waste management is so vast. I mean, Accra generates like waste on a massive scale, because Accra is one of the dirtiest cities, one of the most toxic cities in the world. So you could imagine the amount of waste that is being generated, not on an annual basis, but on a daily basis. Okay, so the existing waste management organizations are not able to meet the needs of these waste management issues, because one, there's an issue of logistical challenge. There's an issue of poverty. I mean, so even if you put in an intervention where you put in a smart bin somewhere, okay, because someone doesn't have a bin at their house, so just go and remove that smart bin and send it home. Are you getting it? So that even though the innovation is coming in to fix that problem, but it's also creating another one. So I used to tell people that, I mean, for that part of the conversation to be resolved, okay, we need more of the education. We need more of how would I say it? Monetizing, selling the concept of monetization of waste. So let's say now that
by selling the concept of monetization of waste, do you mean to the people to would that help solve the social problem or the people problem, or
yeah,
what are we looking at here?
Yeah, if we monetize waste, okay, if we have people buying waste, I mean, people would want to manage waste so that they can make money out of it.
Hey guys, let me jump in here at a point, okay?
Okay.
I was just saying, once you finish, I'd like to jump in.
Come again?
No, go for it. Cuthbert was saying when you finish, he would like to comment. So just keep on, go for it.
All right, sure. So what I was saying was, once we are able to monetize waste, once we are able to present the opportunity to people that, okay, once you generate waste, I mean, you can dispose of waste and still make money, especially solid and like we have various forms of waste. So once we are able to sell the concept of the fact that if they're able to manage their waste well, that waste has value. So you won't see this waste ending up in drains. Are you getting it? So if we are able to, I mean, educate people on the essence of managing waste and the fact that waste is wealth, then once they understand that, the platforms like the apps would now connect these people to the people that buy the waste, or the people that dispose of this waste, because people generate waste, businesses and even individuals generate waste, but they are not able to move this waste to like places because the landfills are full, and they are not able. There's a logistic problem to even move these waste to where they are supposed to be. So if like the industries are available to what, and we know like there are new industry like this plastic companies and these paper companies that are buying off plastic and paper waste and even metal waste to recycle them. We need to expand that and educate people that, okay, if you're able to manage your waste well, I mean, we can buy a waste and kind of put it maybe in a plant where it can help generate electricity and that kind of stuff. So we need to really educate people. Education is really key, or else we'll build the best apps, build the best smart bins, build the best systems. But if we are not able to tackle that education problem, the fact that people need to come to that awareness of wealth, waste being wealth, I mean, we'll still have this issue. Let me put up a critical example. Like I mentioned earlier, people are now, you hardly see pure water rubbers like going off, because by the time you come in the morning, people have like scouted for those pure water rubbers or plastic water bottles, or let's say empty drink cans. Okay, because people buy these things. Okay, so it becomes high in demand. Are you getting it? So people rush for it. Like waste has now become like gold. Are you getting it? So if we are able to expand the concept of this form of waste in other sectors, I mean, we'll be able to monetize it, and people will see that, okay, I mean, I need to keep my waste. So now if you go to some households, they have this long white rubbers that they stuff plastics inside, and people come to buy these things. Are you getting it? So I mean, there are so much opportunities, and I feel that our solutions need to be very pragmatic, in a sense that we need to start somewhere, and empathize more with the people to understand the solution, rather than just moving to build like advanced technologies that these people don't really understand. Thank you.
Okay, but before you come in there, so no, but what you're saying is, well, we need to empathize more with the people, so we need to understand the pain point of the people. We need to really get to do some sort of groundwork to really understand how waste is probably going to help these people make better way of living, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
that is quite fascinating because this next question, I'm thinking, no, Cuthbert can actually throw in more insight on this. Cuthbert already leads a waste management solution business, right? How can we leverage, right, on technology, or how can we harness the usefulness of technology to solve the problem within waste management, whilst we also address the issue around the social and cultural norms?
So there are a couple of points, right? The first one is paying for waste is logistically difficult, right? And there are a couple of things. First, paying for waste is logistically difficult, but also the education component that Kofi mentioned is critical. But the education component takes years, right? It's not something that happens in a year. It's something that happens over 10 to 20 years. And I'm saying the 10 to 20 years because if you look at America, if you look at Europe, where there has been concerted effort by large companies to change people's behavior around recycling, it has been a 20-year initiative, right? It started in the 70s and 80s, and we're just now we're in the 2000s, and we're still getting people not recycling as much as they can, right? And so there's that component of education is not a one and done thing. It is a structural generation. It is an education, and so it takes time. The other thing, though, is the logistics challenge you talk about is a real challenge to waste operators, right? You know, waste operators in most African cities do not have the mandate of, in some countries where you just get a government contract, you cover this entire area and the government pays you. A lot of them have to go door to door to figure out who wants their service, who's willing to pay for their service, and then you set a collection program, right? And so there is a logistics challenge of planning and managing just the collection routing process. And then lastly, funding to pay for trucks is a problem. To pay for collection vehicles and the repair of collection vehicles is a problem. It's an even greater problem if you then have to pay for the material you're collecting, and then you have to then do the process, right? So the plastic model is because there is value enough in the plastics go back into the value chain, into the supply chain. It gets recycled, reused. It reduces the demand for virgin plastic, and same for aluminum and metals. Organic waste do not have the same ability. Shredded clothes do not have the same ability. Certain types of plastic do not have the same ability. And so collection of waste still needs to happen. It is difficult to logistically to envision a model in which a business pays for. So if it is difficult to imagine a model in which a business pays for organic waste to provide fertilizer. And here's a baseline, right? For every ton of organic waste you create, you're only getting about 100 kilos of fertilizer, right? And the sale of fertilizer is pretty low. And even if you feed that into an anaerobic digester, you're not generating, for every ton, you're not generating a megawatt of energy, right? So you don't have enough output to value the purchase of 1 ton of waste to obtain 100 kilos of organic fertilizer. So you can pay for plastics and aluminums, but organic waste, which is, like I said before, still over 50%. It's something in the 55-60% range in most cities. It's also the heaviest, the dirtiest, the most difficult to. It's logistically collecting it, paying to collect that is a challenge, even if you were going to valorize it through anaerobic digestion or composting.
Wow, quite interesting. So there is a gap here. So where we have organic waste and we have the plastics and the metal, aluminiums, which get back into the value chain, right? So it means there is more value on one part than there is value on the other. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, interesting. Now, how do we then design systems or processes that actually help support or yes, support both value chains so that, for instance, if an e-waste organization or waste management solution business, right, could leverage on both as a way to actually be sustainable or make profits and still impact and make help us build cleaner cities because we have a lot of plastics, right? I don't know how much
Right, but we
organic
have
waste.
more organic.
We have more organic
We have
waste,
much more
right,
organic.
being produced, and we have vast farmlands. I mean, there are a lot of things we could do with organic waste, right? So, how do we leverage on both to build sustainable waste management organizations and build sustainable living conditions for Africans, right, as a
I
waste
think
management business?
so. From my experience in speaking to waste operators in Mali and Sierra Leone and in Guinea and in Nigeria, people will pay, right? You're not talking about a household paying $20 a month. They'll pay 4, 5, 8, maybe $10 in their whatever that is in their local currency. However, if you do that at scale, if you do that at 10, at 1,000, 500, at 2,000, at 10,000 households, you have a viable business and you have a model that works, right? I actually argue that waste operators, solid waste operators, are in an interesting position because once they collect waste, right, they're able to extract benefits by, if they can put that waste or transfer that waste to a transfer station that does composting, if they can do plastic recycling to extract the plastics and recycle that, same for aluminum. In a given month, that company will likely see not only their operating revenue, but have secondary revenue, right, from the sale of plastics and aluminum. But then also, there are schemes like recycle credit schemes, which would allow a company, if in a given month the company collects 1 ton, 2 tons, 3 tons of waste plastic that can be recycled, they can then get financial support through recycle credits, right? And so it's a process of, these businesses need the financial support to exist and to allow them to operate in a sustainable manner. And that's where we come back to investment, right? At a baseline, these businesses need investment because they can't get bank loans at their early stages, right? And so if they're able to get some small investment, again, right? If your listeners are looking at companies in their local area, if you do a small investment, you get some small returns back, you get back your principal, but then the company has enough capital to invest and to expand so that they can increase their revenue potential. That's kind of the solution in my mind.
All right,
Thank you very
Richard,
much.
can I contribute to this?
Yeah, you can. Feel free. Shoot.
All
Go
right,
for it.
sure. I mean, yeah. So like just
Well,
as
sure, I don't see your face clearly. We are looking at your
yeah.
screen.
Yeah,
Thank
sorry.
you.
So just as he mentioned, I mean, for us to understand the full potential of like waste management, because one, there is a logistical challenge that I mean, we can't fix now. Just like the education issue, these are things that will take time for it to reach, let's say, correction points. Um, I think what if an innovator wants to disrupt this space, okay, I think what they need to do is to, look at how they can use data to make certain decisions. One, first of all, understanding what type of waste is generated, like you mentioned. If it's organic waste, how much organic waste are we generating, like on a daily basis, and within which area? Which waste are we recycling? Okay, and making sure that you are connecting these resources to the nearest point, so that one, it reduces cost of transportation, and it's very easy for these things to be conveyed. So like kind of like dark stores kind of model, where the advantage points where people where waste is assembled and segregated into various sections, and the various people that need it come to pick it up and use it for whatever they want to do. So the plastic buyers come to buy it, the animal breeders, because some people can't do what's the name, like food waste. So especially those in the bar, those in the restaurants and the rest, those so they have market for these type of food. So if we are able to know the amount of waste that is generated on scale, okay, we are able to match them to who needs it at which point in time. Then at the end of the day, we are clearing it off, because one of the expensive ways of managing waste is when you are conveying it over a larger distance, because it's cost fuel, and you need a larger truck or whatever to move this waste over those distances. So it will be very important that we are able to understand the use cases or the opportunities of these wastes, like what type of waste is generated in each household, what type of waste do businesses generate on a daily basis. So if we are able to understand these key factors, okay, we are able to know how to distribute or how to weed off the waste that has been generated. Segregate them well and offer I think it's been done now. There's a plant around around Carnation area. Yeah, there was a waste segregation plant, but still they are not. I'm not sure they are able to reach the coverage that they seek to reach. But if we are able to understand what type of waste is generated, the volumes, and we are able to match them to like industry that can convert this waste into value, then I think we might be making certain headway. Because in terms of the education, like you mentioned, this is something that we are going to live with for some time. Logistics, we also, because the more we invest in this logistics, the more population also grows, so the more waste is generated. Are you getting it? So we need to look at how we can find the opportunities, or how we can find the value in this waste that is generated, and look at how we can dispose them of very innovatively. If it's replanting them into the agricultural value chain, into the manufacturing space, into sustainable energy, then we know that, okay, we are making some few headways. In terms of the investment, it will be very difficult for us to, let's say, get like big, heavy investors coming in to help us reach that big milestones that we want to reach. But if you're able to leverage whatever systems and structures that we have in place to at least get the job done, I think we'll be able to make certain headway.
Thank you very much, Norbert, for that insightful contribution. Mind you, you're still watching the Digital Factory live dialogue show. This is brought to you by Digital Times Africa in collaboration with SIA Africa. And still, we are discussing tech-driven sanitation, water, and waste management. Looks like we've been settling in so much within the waste management sector. It's very important because waste is actually what leads to the issues around sanitation. And waste is also the same thing that leads to damages we have to our water body, right? And I'm just going to leave this out there. Quite insightful conversations we've had. And we have about 5 minutes to end. Unfortunately, time is way behind us. But nonetheless, we want to hear from you, our audience. If you're listening live, please feel free to put in questions in the comment section below and we'll answer. Right? A sustainable sanitation future lies in Africa's ability to adapt new technologies, right? And I was just thinking, after listening to Norbert and Ayo share so much insight around the issue with waste management, right? Is there a possibility to have an initiative that allows households to contribute positively to a changing narrative that sees out waste management issues and create more sustainable solution? I mean, I remember in Ghana, I think during the time of, is it J.J. Rollins or I've forgotten the other president, the very tall president. There was this one house, one farm, or something like that, right? Could we have such initiative around the waste industry or the waste management industry to really help curb some of the issues and challenges around waste, sanitation, and water? Is there a possibility that that could work?
I would say yes, right? So you see, you have recyclers in Lagos. You have Chantidati in Lagos. You have recycle points. There are lots of companies doing recycling in Nigeria and across West Africa. You have green partners in green cities in Liberia. You have lots of companies doing waste collection and waste recycling. The introduction of households as partners, like Norbert said, getting recyclers, getting people interested in recycling is important, and it's happened. You have a lot of households that are paid and incentivized by being paid to collect waste. There are some initiatives that have introduced anaerobic digesters at the household level, so that at least some of the organic waste can be diverted in that way and used locally. So there are lots of initiatives. The challenge, though, is at the end of the day, it's a scale issue, right? An African household, let's say one household produces 1 kilo of waste a day, which seems low, but 1 kilo of waste a day. Actually, one person in Africa produces something around 65 grams, 70 grams a day of waste. The average household in Africa has around 8 people per household. So that's already over 2 to 3 kilos a day. And then essentially you have the challenge of volume, right? Like, can you divert enough waste? And the answer is just very simply, it's unlikely. No, it's unlikely that you would be able to divert waste out of the street, out of the waste value chain. And so the need is to collect efficiently and to process. I think we do African households a disservice by saying they can't afford to pay for waste collection service. I just think the majority of households can pay something to 1 or 2% of their income for the household, and in most places that's around $5 to $10 a month. So I think it's possible to get households willing to pay for waste collection service so that they can be part of the waste value chain.
Thank you so much, Ayo. Nene, I haven't listened to some of the insightful conversations we've had so far. What is your take on the future of the waste management industry, and how do you think investment would play a pivotal role in making the shift for the industry?
Very imperative, right? In so many instances, it is very nationalized or centralized, right? Where everything is coming from, let's say, the central government. I think that if the system is centralized and actually, put in the hands of the sector, I think would be more successful. So having said, I just want to once again pivot back to Cuba. Him. From West today with Dallas. What are some of we're running? So maybe if you could make it very quick. What are some of the things need to happen for people in something like Dallo system? Just give us the quick, nitty dirty plan on if an investor invest in Dallo system. What's the route?
Investing in Dollar System, we're doing a pre-seed raise right now. Our target is 350,000. An investor can reach out to me at either info@dalasystem.com or caonikute@dalassystems.com, and we can talk around that. We're doing a pre-seed round. We have some early traction, right? We have several customers in Mali. We have several customers in Nigeria, several customers in Guinea. And so we have on our platform over right now, I think 8,000 households across 7 businesses, 7 waste operators. And we plan to expand to bring on new clients in the future. And our clients are waste operators that are using our product to manage their customers, to manage waste collection, to address the logistics challenge that Kofi mentioned, but also to address the business challenge, right? We make it easier for them to collect payment. We make it easy for them to track their expenses. We make it easier for them to monitor their service delivery. All of these things, this is how we believe that by improving these logistical challenges, these operational challenges, we make it easy for these businesses to deliver better service. And in delivering better service, they can retain customers and grow. So to invest in a company like Dollar System or any waste company, you reach out to us, you reach out to me. We're taking small checks, we're taking large checks, and I can also put investors in touch with waste operators across West Africa that would also be open to taking checks that are much more just a small loan for a return. We're doing a convertible note, so we have a slightly different structure. Did I answer that question?
Yeah, perfectly so. Let's take a few comments. We have quite a few comments in, and would like to hear from audience. Right? Insightful Mind says crowdfunding. Yeah. I think this is referring to the talk about investment, and Ayo, you spoke so much about how investors can actually give either little donations or little investments to startup businesses to help really aggregate the waste collection or the waste management solutions that will probably help, right? So is crowdfunding an option? Is this
Yeah,
something that
actually,
will work?
it is. One of the things I've been thinking about is, because we know a large group of waste operators that are looking for investment across several countries. I believe that we can be that bridge, right? We don't need any money from that process. We put individuals looking to make small investments into waste operators, into one waste operator, and they can do it. The challenge with crowdfunding from the waste operator's point of view is most of them don't have the time or the bandwidth to engage with a crowdfunding campaign, to support, to raise awareness and to get small checks in. So I think it's much more of a crowd investing where a few people are like, oh, we want to invest in this company, or we're looking to invest in a waste company. We've got $10,000, we've got $5,000. Who can this help and what can this give us? I think if anyone makes an investment, 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 into a waste company in Africa, they can probably get 20 or 30%, if not more, return on that investment within a year. And so obviously
Wow.
that's much more
Did
of a
you just
loan
say
arrangement.
that?
Yeah. It's not
30%?
Pardon, 20 to 30. Yeah, it's not the problem isn't it's cash flow. So people want to pay for waste service delivery, waste service removal. They just can't, if you can't reliably come or you can't reliably reach those customers, you can't serve them, so you can't get them on board, right? But once you've got a reliable truck, once you've got a reliable team, you can get there, right? And so you build a reliable network, paying back a small loan and giving 20 to 30%, everyone I've spoken to is completely okay with that.
All right. So I just thought about this, right? Crowdfunding, very, very interesting point of view. Could we have some sort of an organization set up to help gather the crowd and get funding? And then since you have access to waste management solution businesses, right? You could see maybe how we can work together to leverage on the crowdfunded monies
And
or
the
the
businesses,
crowdfunding
yeah, absolutely.
to invest in those businesses. Could I
Yes,
mean at the
absolutely.
end of the day, partnerships would play a very, very key role in having this establishment done.
Agreed. So on this one, I take a purely entrepreneurial route. I'm open to this, and I haven't found investors that are like, okay, I'm willing to do this, right? So if I make contact with people that are willing to serve as investors, I can then bring them to start the waste entrepreneurs that I know, right? So what I'm saying is I already have one side of this. It's a marketplace play. I already have one side. I'm seeking the other side. So if I can find an entity that's willing to build this, I think this is something that can happen at least for the first few months organically, and we test out the hypothesis of if the investors are serious and if the businesses themselves are truly serious, right? Because what I'm telling you, what I've been told. However, I don't know, if push comes to shove and they're like, okay, here's 5,000 US, here's 10,000 US. The return, what is the return you're willing to offer over what timeline for these investors, and what do they need to do to wire you and before they can wire you the funds?
Perfect. Let's get the second reaction on the comments, right? Um, so insightful minds also go over to say, I think working with cleaning companies will help faster and cheaper. What are your thoughts?
Um, yes, I'm not sure. Yes, right. Cleaning companies, in what capacity? Cleaning companies,
So,
yes.
so
So
I
cleaning
think what
companies go to
insightful mind is trying to say here is a lot of African organizations or businesses actually have some sort of a cleaning
cleaning
agency
company.
managing
Yeah.
yeah I mean day to day running of cleaning of
Yeah, and that company
the
contracts out
places.
to a waste company, to a waste service provider. Absolutely. I Again, I've done this when I was running Dish Look. We had several companies that contracted to us to collect the waste that their cleaners gathered from the market or from a soup or from a mall. Yeah, that is easy. The problem though is it only addresses waste for the areas those cleaners operate. We're not
Hmm.
Residential waste is a very different thing. Commercial waste for businesses that don't have cleaners is another thing.
That's true. And wasting spaces like the slums and Abubuloshi might also have issues, right? Let's take a different comment. So, has anyone tried to reduce the price of each household waste collection as a percentage of what waste that is correctly recycled? Wow.
That is a great question, Shauna. The 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 idea. So you're basically saying, can a household pay for used plastics to pay for their waste collection? And some
Yeah,
companies do that. Yes, absolutely. The challenge though is households tend to you don't collect a lot in a month, right? And so a household's probably not collecting more than 1 to 5 kg, and a kg of waste is probably not generating more than like 20 cents. So essentially, the household will be saving $1 in a given month, maybe two. And so sometimes the numbers don't make sense.
okay, quite excited. I like this. I like this question a lot.
It's a very good
Anyway,
question. Thank
I
you,
still
Sana.
mind goes on to say that in Africa, I don't think so. Well, not anyways in Ghana. I mean, that's why we're having conversations such as this to be able to challenge our mindset, challenge our ideologies, challenge our perceptions to see what's possible. What could we do? How could we leverage on our individual capacities as people and organization to be able to create a change or create change within the ecosystem. I have Kafui who wants to make a short remark before I draw the curtains, invite Nene to give a closing remark and talk about the next session because we're having a long partnership where we get to do more of this conversation around city planning. I'm very much excited to host this. Let's have Kafui come on board and talk to us about what are your thoughts, Kafui? Let us hear from you shortly.
Sure, I've been in and out of the discussion, but then I just wanted to put my economics. I have an economics background, so just wanted to put my economics hat on. When we look at the situation, the issue of city planning, right? I think at the end of the day, it boils down to revenue generation, right? How can you generate from taxes to be able to do some of the things that each city, if you look at the US, for example, there's a lot of revenue that's generating from taxes for each city, which helps them to do the city planning that they want to do, right? So that's one thing. That's where we are lacking in places like Ghana. We don't, I mean, one of the contributors did talk about, hey, how much can we get from folks who are paying these fees for refuse collection? Another thing is, when we look at it, let's look at it from public finance, and let's look at something. I'll give an example of sewage, right? In the US, the city takes care of sewage, right? So your pipes from your house lead to a central point, and that's where the sewage is collected. In Ghana and many parts of Africa, we don't have that. You have the manhole in your house. Now, if you do it by yourself, it's more expensive, right? So I could give other examples like, mosquitoes, right? When we want to combat, malaria, with the city doing it, it takes less, investment than individuals having their own mosquito nets, what do you call it? Sanitizing their own households and stuff rather than the city. What am I trying to say here? I'm just saying that if the cities are able to generate a lot of taxes, close tax loopholes, collect taxes on homes, and etc., these cities will be able to then include the private sector, give these investments, opportunities to the private sector to come in and do what they are supposed to do, right? So, in a nutshell, I think that the whole problem has to be the whole objective, right, has to be from our governments. What are we doing in terms of closing this gap? I think that's my line of thinking here.
Great. Thank you so much, Kafui, for bringing us up to speed on that and economics. I'd like to take a reaction from Colbert here, having run Dallo Systems for a bit. What do you think about what Kafui is saying? Putting the city centers or the governmental organization in focus. Does that take away from the startup perspective, or does that help better management or better startups? Because we do sometimes realize that within the African ecosystem, that when the government is fully involved in certain things, they don't really run as we expect them to run. So what is your take?
I 1000% agree, but then it's like, but we know Africa, right? Like, I agree, right? Like, there is a role for the state in transportation planning, in waste management, in utility service deliveries. That is the state's role. That's the baseline of the state. But right now, in a lot of countries, and it's interesting because Ghana is perhaps, in West Africa at least, the best. Ghana and Senegal are the best examples, right? And people here are mentioning that Ghana has a lot of problems. The ability to deliver services is something that a lot of African cities, right, and not federal governments, but cities do not have the appropriate funding to accomplish. And the mechanisms to collect taxes, or the willingness to collect taxes, is not something that the leaders of cities are willing to do. If that were to happen, we could possibly, no, right? Because I was going to say, if that was to happen, we could possibly see improvement in service delivery. But sewage is usually something secured by state and federal level, right? Cities just do not have the funding to finance the delivery of a sewage system. However, if cities improve waste management, does that eliminate the entrepreneurial sector for opportunities for waste operators? Absolutely not. Most waste management companies most waste management in most cities around the world are done by private sector, are done by the private sector. They're contracted through the government. And so it's actually not at all a risk, right? It actually provides a bit more stability and would probably make it easier for operators to obtain financing if everyone had confidence that the state was a reliable, faithful partner. So I fully agree with the last comment. Unlikely to happen, but it would be nice.
But what about the idea that in most of these are big investments, right? So sometimes before a private entrepreneur wants to do something that is to the public benefit, right? It's a huge investment. The initial investment is huge, right?
Which is why states do it, right?
Yes. So sometimes the state has to, basically, what do you call it? Pre-finance them in a way. For example, if it's a public transportation, even if it's public transportation.
I mean, the state is the entity that can take on the cost of long-term financials, right? They receive the benefits, right? America built highways and were able to move goods and see lots of benefit. Germany, Europe did it, and you see the benefits. The only entity that's willing to take on that long term, and it's not even 10 years, right? We're talking 50 to 100 years, right? Kind of level of planning. America needs their infrastructure redesigned or rebuilt. America's infrastructure is probably like 70 years old, right? Europe's infrastructure, for lack of is more or less post-World War II, which makes it around 70. Like China has fast trains because the infrastructure is less than 20 years old. It's easy. It's easier, right? The only entity that can do that is the state. But that's like, especially in waste collection, that doesn't need to be, the state doesn't need to hire to buy the trucks and all of that. The state needs to build the waste processing facility and the transfer station.
Yeah.
Interestingly, I would argue that in solid waste collection is perhaps one of the few places where the state does not need to do anything, right? If as a private entity, building a waste processing facility just requires the land and the permissions, right? So what you require from the state is the permission to operate and know that no matter, I have this for 10 years.
Yeah,
right?
granting you a license, right? So it's
For
more
10
like
years,
them a
right?
license, right?
Right. And so if you can, if someone can build a waste processing facility and know that no one's going to bother them for 10 years, that'll work. That's enough, right? The problem for waste op, and then 10 waste operators can pop out overnight and they can do 10,000 households each, or one person, or they can consolidate and do 40,000 households. Like that, the collection mechanism is less complicated than the processing mechanism, right? Because that's where the challenge is of land in Africa, and we know what land in Africa means, and land in cities in Africa, and we know land in Africa, if you're talking about a village, is whatever, you buy that, nobody cares. But if you're talking about Accra, Lagos, Abuja, Conakry, Dakar, like if you're trying to build capitals of waste transfer stations or processing facilities in large cities, that's a bad idea. The problem is if you want to build it on the outside of a large city, you don't have the rail infrastructure to reduce the cost of getting it there, right? So the reality is the state needs to take someone's land for the betterment of the greater good, right? So if you can get 5-10 hectares of land in a capital city, which is a lot of land, you can build a waste processing facility that is futuristic, right? That is not just landfilling, that diverts over 85% of that waste. And it'll be amazing, right? Because you'll have energy, you'll have fertilizer, you'll have jobs, thousands of jobs, right? The state would see immense benefit, but it's unlikely that anyone's going to do the task of allocating 5 hectares of land in Lagos, or just outside of Lagos, or in Dakar, or in Accra, or in Kumasi to do what needs to be done. But for building sewage, there's no private entity that can build sewage, right? There's no private entities that can build highways. That's a state. Waste collection is the interesting utility that can be operated by the private sector entirely.
All right, thank you so much. I have to draw the curtains here, and unfortunately, quite unfortunately, it's becoming so exciting and insightful. But I mean, we can always continue this conversation. And SIA Africa is on a mission to support initiatives that impact and educate Africans around health, city planning, trade, economic investment by matching resources with needs and opportunities. This discussion was brought to you by SIA Africa in collaboration in partnership with Digital Times Africa, which is a business focused on innovation and technology for Africa. We seek to see how we can support and strengthen the African ecosystem through discussions like this. And I mean, creating a platform that actually promotes and accelerates the works of African entrepreneurs. Right. My name is Richard Joseph. And before I sign out, I would invite Nene at this point to give last words and we can say goodbyes. Thank you so much, Ayo, for sticking and staying with us and sharing all knowledgeable insights you've shared. We really learned a lot about waste management, and this will go a long way to impact and influence our audience and people, create capacity, educate them around what they can do as individuals, what we can do as collective to actually make a shift for the problems around waste management and city sanitation. Um, as we evolve the conversation, we're going to get deeper into city planning and see how we can also drive that trajectory. You're welcome, Nene. You have the floor. Hold on,
Africa
Nene. You have
for.
to speak that over
Sorry,
again. Your mic is muted. Good. We can hear you
what?
now.
You hear
I
me?
can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I was saying that I thank you all for making this a very interesting conversation dialogue. I want to thank you, Richard, for hosting this, and to Digital Times Africa for making this possible. Unfortunately, Dr. Yoasin could not join us. I would have loved to have him, but everybody else who tuned in did a very fantastic job. Norbert Jiwanu, once again, thank you for being a trailblazer for the youth of Africa in urban planning. And also to Dr. Kafu Nukunya for joining in, giving your insights. Appreciate that. And then to my I really want to say bravo for the working for Africa through Dalo systems. And we as an organization that thrives partnerships, we are grateful to everybody, and we continue to advocate for education that's on environmentally sustainable, well planned. And after all, we are committed to matching opportunities and needs because we believe it in doing well while we turn into action. And thank you so much, everyone, tuning in. Really appreciate everybody who joined from all over the world. Thank
Thank you so much, Nena Kujo, who's the CEO of SIA Africa. Nen, I think you should mention the full meaning of SIA Africa. I always.
It's sustainable initiatives and alliances for Africa. So we partnerships, like I said, and that's what it means: sustainable initiatives and alliance Africa.
Perfect. Thank you so much all for joining. Thank you so much, Ayo. Really appreciate the deep insights you shared on the conversation, on the dialogue. Super, super great stuff. We hope that out of this conversation, we could create a business that actually can crowdfund and bring that money to you. And you can also channel that some of those monies to some of the waste management solution organizations which already exist and are doing amazing stuff. Again, this conversation was brought to you by SIA Africa in collaboration with Digital Times Africa. If you need any exciting insight around the business of technology and innovation, entrepreneurial insight, do also visit www.digitaltimesafrica. If you want to also learn about SIA Africa and its work, please visit sia-africa.org. Right, you can learn about their initiative and everything they do and how they support African businesses. Right, we will come to you again on the 13th day of January 2022. The Digital Factory comes to you once every month, and we have exciting conversations like these to challenge our mindset, challenge our objections, to be able to create something that is influential and can use sustainable growth for the African digital ecosystem. My name is Richard Joseph, and thank you for staying with us. Have a lovely afternoon, have a lovely evening, wherever you're listening from. We really appreciate that you joined us and you shared some of your comments and asked some of our guest questions. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.